This child was not invited and needs to be removed. The words thundered through the reception hall speakers, each syllable sharp as a dagger. For a split second, I wondered if I was imagining it, some nightmare come to life. The music had screeched to a halt. 200 party guests fell into stunned silence. My heart plunged into my stomach as I realized the voice blaring from the DJ's microphone belonged to Reagan. From across the dance floor, I saw her, my mother-in-law Reagan, standing unsteadily at the DJ booth in a sequined purple gown, her face twisted with rage. In her hand, she clutched the microphone like a weapon, knuckles white, and she was pointing straight at my 8-year-old son Zane. Zane had been in the middle of the dance floor moments before, joyfully spinning under the twinkle lights. He'd even been showing off the moonwalk he'd practiced, his new dinosaur-shaped sunglasses slipping down his small nose as he grinned. But now his tiny body had gone rigid. The smile was wiped from his face, replaced by confusion and the first tremors of fear. In the reflection of his mirrored glasses, I could see dozens of faces turned toward him in shock. My chest tightened with panic and a fierce protectiveness. Oh God, not here. Not now. This was supposed to be a celebration, a joyous family wedding. I was halfway across the room, but I shoved through the onlookers, desperate to reach my son before Reagan's hateful words did any more damage. She wasn't done. Bringing the mic closer to her lips, Reagan spat into it, voice slurred with drink and venom. This is my daughter's special day, and I won't have it ruined by some creature. The word echoed cruelly off the vaulted ceiling and elegant decor, as out of place as a curse in a church. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. My pulse pounded in my ears. Up by the DJ booth, I saw the bride, Jessica, my sister-in-law and Zane's beloved Aunt Jess, bolt upright at the head table, nearly knocking over her chair. Her white wedding gown shimmered as she started toward her mother, eyes wide with anger and disbelief. Around me, people exchanged shocked looks or stared, frozen. And there was Zane, standing alone in the middle of the dance floor under the glittering chandelier, hundreds of eyes suddenly on him. He looked small, vulnerable. I saw his lower lip start to tremble, even as he stayed rooted to the spot. He was in that petrified, glassy-eyed state I recognized too well, the beginning of an emotional overload. I finally broke through the ring of spectators and sprinted the last few steps to him. At the same time, I watched as Zane's great-grandmother, Reagan's own estranged mother, rose from her seat and moved toward him as well, faster than any 80-year-old should logically move. But my focus was on Zane's face. His chest was heaving. A single tear was rolling down his cheek. How the hell did we get here? I thought wildly. How did a beautiful night of dancing and love turn into this? The answer crashed into me almost as painfully as Reagan's words. We got here because of a text message I'd received barely 24 hours ago. A text that shattered my boy's heart and ignited a resolve in me that nothing, not even security guards or an enraged mother-in-law, would break. We got here because I refused to let someone filled with hate decide where my son belonged. Now here we were, at the moment I had both feared and anticipated. As I reached Zane, I saw Grandma wrap her arms around him, shielding him from the gaze of the crowd. I fell to my knees beside them, pulling Zane into the circle of my own arms. His small body shook against me, and I felt hot tears soak through my shirt. "It's okay, buddy, I'm here," I murmured, though my own voice was unsteady. Above us on the dais, Jessica had reached her mother, and was trying to yank the microphone away. Reagan jerked back, clutching it possessively. "Everyone needs to know what kind of creature you brought into our family," Reagan shouted, the amplified words stabbing into me. My entire body bristled with rage. I held Zane tighter as a whimper escaped him. How did it come to this? My mind screamed. And then, as if moving in slow motion, I saw Jessica finally snatch the microphone away, her face a mix of fury and heartbreak. Robert, her brand new husband, stepped between his wife and mother-in-law, and others were standing too. Voices were rising in defense of my son, in fury at Reagan. The tide was turning. But before any of them had spoken up, before this scene had reached its boiling point, there was yesterday. The moment that lit the fuse. I closed my eyes, holding Zane close, and for an instant my mind flashed back to the day before. Back to the moment it all began. One day earlier. 24 hours earlier, I was on our living room couch, watching Zane glide across the rug in his socks, practicing his moonwalk for the 100th time. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through the windows as he scrunched up his face in concentration, sliding one foot back, then the other. He nearly lost his balance and grabbed the arm of the couch, erupting into giggles. "Look, Daddy. I almost got it that time." He laughed, cheeks flushed with pride and exertion. I grinned at him. "You're getting better and better, buddy. They won't know what hit them on the dance floor tomorrow." Tomorrow. The wedding. Zane's excitement was contagious and bittersweet all at once. My 8-year-old son didn't get invited to many parties or events with lots of people. His autism made large, loud gatherings a challenge, and sadly, not everyone in our life had been understanding about that. But this was different. Aunt Jessica's wedding was something he'd been counting down to for months. Jessica adored Zayn, and as she often joked, he was her favorite person in the family. She had made sure he was invited with a special role to play. He'd been buzzing with anticipation, practicing his dancing so he could impress her and everyone else. He loved Jessica fiercely. In his eyes, Aunt Jess was the coolest adult in the world. She took him to the zoo, read books with him, FaceTimed him just to chat about his latest dinosaur obsession. She made him feel safe and loved. The thought that tomorrow he'd get to see her in a princess dress, as he called it, and dance at her wedding had him practically levitating with joy all week. Zayn hopped around me now, flapping his hands a little as he worked off the extra energy. Do you think there'll be a mirror ball, Dad? And lights that change colors? I want to moonwalk under the lights like a real dancer. I chuckled. I bet there will be. Weddings have all that fun stuff. You're going to be the star of the dance floor. He giggled at that, then suddenly got a shy, thoughtful look. Maybe I can dance with Aunt Jessica if she isn't too busy, he mused, attempting another little backward slide. I've been practicing so I can show her I'm good. My heart melted. I'm sure she'd love that, Zany. In that moment, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I reached over and glanced at the screen. A text notification glowed there, the name Reagan visible above the preview of a message. Reagan. Jessica's mother, my mother-in-law. We weren't close, in fact. Our relationship had been strained ever since Zayn was diagnosed at age 3. She'd never said anything outright cruel to me about him, but her disapproval was always just beneath the surface. The tight smiles, the condescending remarks about our parenting, the way she'd stop calling my son by name and just say him with a certain tone. Still, she was family, and I tried to keep peace for Jessica's sake. I hadn't expected to hear from her directly, especially not the night before her daughter's wedding. A prickly feeling crawled up my spine as I unlocked the phone. Is that about the wedding? Zayn asked, noticing my furrowed brow. He bounced over and peered at the screen curiously. Hold on, bud, I said, turning slightly away. Some instinct made me want to read it myself first. I opened the text. It was long, several sentences. As my eyes scanned the words, I felt my stomach clench into a tight, icy knot. Hey, my daughter's wedding is tomorrow, and I'm not having your little freak son ruining it. Besides, Jessica already deals with that creature enough when babysitting. Don't bring him. I'm deadly serious. For a moment, the world tilted. I read it again, convinced I had to be misunderstanding. Little freak son. Creature. The words were so vicious and unexpected that my brain refused to process them. Dad. Zayn's voice was right at my elbow. I snapped out of my stupor and fumbled to lock the phone, but too late. He had seen my face, seen the shock and hurt I was sure was etched there. I tried to shield the screen, but he was quicker, clambering half onto my lap to see. What does it say? Is it about the wedding? He asked eagerly, still innocent. Zayn, wait. I protested, but my reaction only made him more curious. Before I could stop him, his eyes flicked over the text that filled the screen. I watched the bright, excited expression on my boy's face drain away as he silently mouthed the words freak and creature. Each slur hit him like a slap. He blinked rapidly, as if hoping the words might change or disappear. And then comprehension set in. She doesn't want me at the wedding, he whispered. The hurt in his voice was raw, bewildered. Why? His lips trembled. I thought Aunt Jessica loved me. She does love you. I said immediately, my voice breaking. This isn't from Jessica. It's from... Before I could explain, the phone buzzed again in my hand. Another text from Reagan, coming in like a follow-up blow. I hired security. Your son's name isn't on the guest list. Try to bring him and they'll turn you both away at the door. I sucked in a breath. She really intended to enforce this vile decree. The image of some bouncer physically blocking my little boy from entering his aunt's wedding flashed through my mind, and a hot wave of anger surged through me. Zayn saw the second text as well. His small shoulders crumpled as he read it. Security like police to keep me out, he choked. His eyes, brimming with tears now, lifted to mine. I'm a freak? A sea creature. The words sounded so horrible, so wrong coming out of his innocent mouth. His voice broke on the last word, and then his face crumpled completely. No, Zayn honey, no, I stammered, tossing the phone aside and wrapping my arms around him. But the damage was done. He began to cry, and it was the most gutting kind of cry, silent, breathless. Tears streamed down his cheeks, and he curled into himself, pressing into my chest as though he could make himself disappear. I held him tight, one hand cradling the back of his head. I was shaking, from rage, from heartbreak. I wasn't sure. Possibly both. I could feel my own tears threatening to come, but I blinked them back. Right now, my son needed strength. It's okay, I've got you, I murmured into his soft hair. I rocked him gently, the way I used to when he was a toddler waking from nightmares. My shirt was damp where his face was buried, but I didn't care. She called him a freak. A creature. The words pounded in my head in time with my racing heart. How dare she? How dare she? This was her grandson. My beautiful, kind, sensitive boy who had done nothing, to deserve this. Zane's thin arms clung to me desperately. I thought Aunt Jessica wanted me there, he hiccuped. Why doesn't she want me anymore? What did I do wrong, Daddy? A bolt of white-hot fury shot through me, clearing the initial shock. I gently pulled back enough to lift Zane's chin, making him look at me. His big brown eyes were red and swimming with tears, searching my face for answers. Listen to me, Zany, I said firmly, though my voice shook. Aunt Jessica does want you there. She loves you. I floundered for a way to explain without dumping adult ugliness on his shoulders. This is not from her. It's from Reagan. And Reagan, she's wrong. What she's saying is wrong. She said I'll ruin it, he whimpered. That I ruin things. A fresh tear rolled down, and I wiped it gently away with my thumb. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself so I could steady him. You do not ruin anything, I said, enunciating each word. You hear me? There is nothing wrong with you. You're not a freak. You're not a creature. You're a child, a wonderful, unique, awesome child. Reagan is. She's saying terrible, untrue things because she doesn't understand you. Or maybe because, I almost said, because she's a bitter, hateful woman, but stopped myself. Because she's just wrong. Zane sniffled hard, rubbing his nose on the back of his hand. But she's hiring us security. She won't let me go. I felt a fierceness rise in me that I'd never quite felt before. A protective ferocity. I had always been a bit conflict avoidant, especially with Reagan. She was an intimidating woman and, until now, the family matriarch we all tiptoed around. But no one hurts my son like this. Zane, I said, trying to keep my voice calm for his sake, even as anger hummed through my veins. We are going to that wedding. He looked at me with those wet, wounded eyes, as if not daring to believe. We are. Yes, we are. I nodded, more resolute by the second. Your Aunt Jessica invited us. She wants us there. And we're not going to let Reagan stop us. His brow furrowed uncertainly. What about the security people? She said they'll have our pictures. Screw security. Screw Reagan. I had a sudden image of us being confronted at the door and me causing such a commotion that the whole wedding ground to a halt. If that's what it took for Jessica to see us and bring us in, so be it. If anyone tries to keep us out, I said, a steely edge in my voice that even surprised me. We'll make a fuss until Jessica comes. But it won't come to that. Jessica's going to make sure we get in, okay? Don't worry. He blinked, swiping at his damp cheeks. He was listening, processing, wanting so badly to believe. The fact that he'd gone from pure excitement to this defeated little puddle on the couch made my heart burn with the need to fix it. But Reagan said, Reagan doesn't get to decide anything. I cut in gently but firmly. She's not the boss of this wedding, and she's certainly not the boss of us. She's just paying for some of it, and she thinks that gives her power. It doesn't. Not really. Zane bit his lip. He was calming. I could tell. The sobs had eased into sniffles, though his face was still miserable. He leaned into me, and I wrapped my arm around him. Quietly, he asked, Why doesn't she like me, Dad? I closed my eyes for a second, pained by the insecurity in his tone. How to answer that? How to tell your child that some people in the world are just cruel, and sometimes even your own family can be that way? She doesn't really know you, buddy, I said at last. She has these wrong ideas in her head about autism, about you. And she won't let herself see past them. That's her failure, not yours. You are amazing just as you are. The problem is hers. Zane considered that, nose still stuffy from crying. He didn't seem fully convinced, but he nodded slowly. A spark of defiance flared in me then. I tilted his chin up again. Hey, you know what we're going to do? He looked at me warily. What? We're going to prove her wrong, I said. She thinks you'll ruin the wedding? Huh. We're going to rock that wedding. A tiny hesitant smile ghosted across his lips. Rock it. Oh yeah, I affirmed, an idea brewing even as I spoke. We're going to show up and show everyone just how awesome you are. We're going to dress you up in the coolest, most unforgettable outfit, and you're going to dance and have fun, and Reagan will be the one who's embarrassed for ever thinking you'd ruin anything. He wiped his face, leaving behind a faint streak of tear salt. But she said I shouldn't come. What if Aunt Jessica? Aunt Jessica wants you there, I interrupted. I was absolutely certain of that. In fact, I needed to let Jessica know what was happening ASAP. But first, I had to get Zane back on board. Tell you what, how about tomorrow morning you and I go shopping? We'll get you the sharpest little suit, maybe a cool tie blue, since that's Aunt Jessica's favorite color, and we can even pick out something with dinosaurs if you want, to make it your style. His eyes widened a fraction. Dinosaurs? At a fancy wedding. Why not? I shrugged theatrically. This is your mission now. Operation. Looks so cool, Reagan's jaw drops. I gave him a conspiratorial grin. For the first time since the text, the faintest giggle escaped him. That's a long name, Dad. Well, we can workshop the name. I joked lightly, relief flooding me at the sound of his laughter. Point is, we're going. And we're going to have fun. Because nobody, not even Reagan, gets to decide that we don't belong where we've been invited. Zane sat up a little straighter, a bit of color returning to his face. But she said she's paying for the wedding. If she sees me, she'll be really mad. I felt a wry, almost feral grin tug at my mouth. Then maybe we should make sure you look so amazing that she can't stand it. He blinked, processing. Then a more genuine smile began to form. It was small, but it was real. Like make her wish I wasn't there because I'm too cool? Exactly, I said, tapping his nose gently. We'll turn her nasty plan on its head. A tiny mischievous spark glinted in Zane's eye now. Can I get dinosaur everything? A laugh burst out of me, surprising me with how cathartic it felt. If that's what you want, buddy, then dinosaur everything it is. His smile grew. He liked this idea. Then, as quickly as it came, the smile faltered. Uncertainty crept back in. What if when we get there, she still doesn't let me in? Even if I look cool? My gut twisted. I hated that he still had to worry about this at all. If she or anyone tries to stop us, I said steadily, we will make such a scene that the whole wedding will stop until Jessica comes out to get us. Okay. Zane's eyes went wide at the notion of causing a scene. Normally he hated being the center of negative attention. It's overwhelming for him. But desperate times. I could yell really loud, he offered softly. I ruffled his hair. The loudest you've ever yelled. But I have a feeling it won't come to that. We'll have people on our side, you'll see. He took a deep breath, then nodded. The sadness in his face was slowly being replaced by resolve. Okay, we'll do it. I pulled him back into a hug, kissing the top of his head. That's my brave boy. He squeezed me tightly. We're really going to Aunt Jessica's wedding? He asked one more time, needing the reassurance. We're really going, I promised. I promise you, Zane, I will get you into that wedding. Nothing's going to keep us away. He exhaled, and I felt some of the tension leave his little body. Can we tell Aunt Jessica? About what Reagan said. Oh, we will, I said grimly. Believe me, she's going to find out. If she didn't already know. It dawned on me that Reagan might have fed Jessica some lie. Perhaps the text's mention of Jessica already deals with that creature enough when babysitting implied Reagan told her I wasn't bringing Zane because he was sick or something. I needed to clarify that right away. I reached for my phone, which I discarded on the couch. Sure enough, there were some missed alerts, a text, and a couple of missed calls from Jessica. Likely Reagan had been in her ear already. Why don't you go wash up, kiddo? I gently suggested to Zane. Then we'll pick out what stores to hit in the morning for Operation Coolest outfit. He nodded and slid off my lap, determination in his step now. As he padded toward the hallway, he paused and looked back at me. Dad, yeah. We're gonna make me look so awesome that Reagan is really gonna hate it, right? I gave him a little salute. Spectacularly annoying. She won't know what hit her. For the first time since that horrible text, Zane's face lit up in a genuine grin, a slightly wicked, mostly excited grin. Good. With that, he scampered off to wash his tear-streaked face and get ready for bed, his mood worlds better than it had been 15 minutes ago. Once he was out of earshot, I let out a shaky breath and finally allowed a few of my own tears to fall. It hit me then what had just happened. That someone I had once respected, my wife's mother, had called my child, her grandchild, a freak, a creature. Tried to ban him from a family event. The cruelty and injustice of it made my hands tremble with renewed anger. I wiped my face quickly and steeled myself. There was work to do. I opened my text thread with Jessica. Sure enough, there was a message from her about 20 minutes ago. Mom saying Zane is sick? You guys okay? Call me. The lie. Reagan had told Jessica that Zane was ill to justify us not coming. That manipulative snake. My fingers flew over the screen. Jessica, we are not okay. Zane isn't sick. Your mom just texted me saying she refuses to let him come. She said awful things. I paused, thumb hovering. I didn't want to put the slurs in writing and upset Jessica more on the eve of her wedding, but I needed her to grasp the severity. I settled for, she literally hired security to keep us out. I hit send. Not 30 seconds later, my phone rang, Jessica's name flashing. I hurried into the kitchen, so Zane wouldn't overhear. I answered, trying to keep my voice calm. Jess, what the hell? Is Mom serious? Jessica's voice was shaking with fury. Clearly my text had conveyed enough. She's serious, Jess. I rubbed my forehead. She texted me that Zane would ruin your wedding and called him. She called him a freak and a creature. I'm so sorry, I know she's your mom, but I have to tell you. Jessica let out a string of curses so sharp and uncharacteristic, I almost laughed in surprise. I cannot believe her. I can, but I can't, she fumed. I am so sorry. God, I don't even know what to say. That's beyond disgusting. It is, I agreed, pacing the length of the kitchen to channel my adrenaline. I didn't want to upset you the night before your wedding, but I knew you'd want to know. We still plan to come, if you're okay with it. Okay with it? Of course I'm okay with it. I want my nephew here, she cried, then lowered her voice. I could hear murmured voices in the background wherever she was. She must have stepped away from her rehearsal dinner or something. Listen, tomorrow you bring Zane. I will handle any security nonsense. I'll put both your names on the guest list myself first thing in the morning and chew out the venue coordinator for good measure. Relief and gratitude flooded me. Thank you. We were both so excited to come, and when my voice wavered remembering Zane's devastated face. It crushed him, Jess. Her voice broke. Oh no. How is he now? Better, I said, glancing toward the hall. I heard the water running. He was brushing his teeth, probably. I told him we'd go anyway. That we'd dress him up super cool. He's trying to be brave. My poor baby, Jessica whispered. God, I want to strangle my mother. The night before my wedding, she pulls this. She said some lie to you about him being sick, I mentioned. Yeah, she came over here and said, oh, by the way, Zane's not coming, he's under the weather. I thought it seemed strange you hadn't mentioned it, which is why I texted you. Then she claimed you texted her that he was ill. I knew something felt off. I snorted. Yeah, she concocted that out of thin air. The audacity. I just can't. Listen, Jessica cut in, steel in her voice now. If she dares to cause a scene about this tomorrow, I'm going to throw her out of my wedding. I swear to God. I don't care if she's my mother. I really hope it doesn't come to that, I said, meaning it. For your sake, I hope the day can be mostly about you and Robert and not drama. She sighed. Whatever happens, I'll choose Zane over her, every time. Please tell him that. And tell him, she lowered her voice to a tender tone. Tell him I have a special job for him at the ceremony. He's going to be our unofficial ring bearer. I was going to surprise him, but I want him to know how important he is to me on my big day. I smiled for what felt like the first time in an hour. Oh, Jess. He's going to flip with happiness. I won't even tell him. Let's keep it a surprise. He's been practicing his dance moves to show you, by the way. I can't wait to see. She hesitated, then said softly, thank you for fighting for him. I know it can't be easy standing up to Mom. I swallowed the lump in my throat. There was never a question. I'm not letting anyone hurt him like that. Not even her. We said our goodnights with her final reassurance echoing in my ear. Just get here. We'll take care of the rest. When I hung up, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and adrenaline. What a roller coaster of an evening. But at least now I had allies. Jessica was furious and prepared. Grace and a couple of my cousins had texted me as well. Heard what Reagan did. We got you, one said, making me suspect word had spread at the rehearsal dinner. That gave me hope that tomorrow, if Reagan tried something, she'd be facing more than just me. I checked on Zane. He was in bed, under his dinosaur comforter, staring at the ceiling. His eyes flicked to me in the doorway. All clean and ready for sleep? I asked gently. He nodded. A pause. Then, did you talk to Aunt Jessica? I did, I said, moving to sit on the edge of his bed. She was really angry at Reagan and said she definitely wants you there. She's going to make sure we get in without trouble. Zane's lips twitched in a shadow of a smile. Really? Really? In fact, she has a secret special job for you in the wedding. I winked. His curiosity piqued, as I knew it would. What job? Tell me. She'd said to tell him, but I couldn't resist keeping a bit of the surprise. If I tell you, it won't be a secret. You'll find out tomorrow, promise. He made a small sound of excitement and anticipation. I could see the sadness had lifted a bit, replaced by a cautious optimism. He yawned then, the emotional toll of the evening catching up. I leaned down and kissed his forehead. Get some sleep, buddy. We've got a big mission tomorrow, remember? He nodded, eyelids already drooping. As I moved to turn off his lamp, he murmured, Dad? Yes. You won't forget, right? You promised we'd go. Even if security guys are there. My heart clenched. I haven't forgotten. We're going no matter what. He finally relaxed fully into his pillow. Okay. Good. Within minutes, he was asleep, soft snores snuffling from his slightly stuffy nose. I stood there in the glow of his nightlight, watching his chest rise and fall, thinking how pure he looked. How undeserving of all this drama. Quietly, I made a vow then and there. No one would ever make him feel like he was less than again if I could help it. Not family, not strangers, no one. I would be whatever shield he needed. I left his room, my mind already turning to the next day. I had promised Dinosaur everything, hadn't I? I figured I'd start with a suit store, but where would we find dinosaur accessories? Maybe the mall. Perhaps a novelty store for kids. I opened my laptop and did a quick late-night search for any shops in town that might carry quirky items like dinosaur ties or pins. To my surprise, a local children's boutique popped up that advertised fun-themed accessories. That was worth a shot. Finally, around midnight, I crawled into bed. I was emotionally exhausted, but sleep wouldn't come easily. I kept replaying the scene of Zane reading that text, how his face had crumpled. Then I'd swing to imagining the confrontation likely awaiting us and feeling my pulse race with nerves. I must have drifted off at some point, because the next thing I knew, my alarm was chiming and the pale morning light was filtering through the curtains. I blinked groggily. Today was the day. For a moment, I felt dread. But then I heard a small shuffle and a whisper, "Dad, it's morning. We gotta go shopping." I turned to see Zane standing in my doorway, already dressed in a t-shirt with a cartoon raptor on it and a pair of shorts, his little face determined. He was up before me, an absolute rarity. I smiled, shaking off the sleep. "Good morning, buddy. You're ready to do this, huh?" He nodded vigorously. "We have a mission." "Roger that," I chuckled. His resilience amazed me. After all the hurt of last night, he'd woken up focused and fearless, at least on the outside. I knew some of that was fragile, but I'd take it. By 9 a.m., we were at our first stop, a local suit shop downtown that opened early. I figured a proper suit would ground his outfit in wedding-appropriate territory, and then we could go wild with the accessories. A bell over the door tinkled as we walked in. A saleswoman in her 50s, with a tape measure around her neck, greeted us with a warm smile. "Good morning. How can I help you two?" I gave Zane an encouraging nudge. "Go ahead, tell her what you need." Zane stepped forward, a bit shy but resolved. "I need a suit for a wedding," he said. After a beat, he added, "A really, really cool suit." The woman beamed. "A really cool suit? I think we can manage that." "Who's the lucky groom, your dad?" "It's my aunt's wedding," Zane explained. "I want to look awesome for her." The clerk's eyes crinkled kindly. "That's so sweet. Let's find you something that'll knock her socks off, shall we?" She took his measurements swiftly. Zane stood very still and serious as she wrapped the tape around his chest and waist, like he was on a secret tailoring mission. We ended up selecting a classic little charcoal gray suit that fit him perfectly after a quick hem on the pants. Under it, a crisp white dress shirt. While she was pinning the hem, the clerk made light conversation. "So, a cool suit. What did you have in mind to make it extra cool?" "A fun tie, maybe? We have some colorful ones." "Blue." Zane piped up immediately, remembering Aunt Jessica's favorite color. "A blue tie. Bright blue." "Excellent choice," she said, fetching a royal blue silk tie and looping it expertly under his collar. She stepped back, taking in Zane's outfit thoughtfully. Something's still missing for maximum cool." Zane glanced at me, then back at her. "Maybe, do you have anything with dinosaurs?" The woman's eyebrows rose, and I half expected a puzzled or disapproving look, but bless her, she didn't miss a beat. "Dinosaurs, you say? Let me think. We might have something fun." She hurried to a display shelf near the register and returned with a small wooden box. Opening it, she revealed a novelty bow tie in a subtle navy fabric with tiny green dinos printed on it and a matching pocket square. Zane's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Whoa, dinosaurs." The clerk smiled conspiratorially. "Not everyone can pull off dinosaurs at a wedding, but you, young sir." "I suspect you can." "We'll take them," I said immediately. Then a thought struck me. "By any chance, do you have like a small pin or something to go on his jacket? A T-Rex or..." She tapped her chin. "We don't usually carry novelty pins, but let me check our lost and found trinkets." Off she went again to a back room. Zane looked up at me as I adjusted his tie in the mirror. For a moment, he looked uncertain. "Is this too much?" he asked softly. "Will people laugh at me?" I knelt down, meeting his eyes in the mirror's reflection. "They'll smile because you're going to look incredible," I said. "And anyone who doesn't like it, well, that's their problem." He nodded, squaring his shoulders. "Right. Reagan doesn't get to decide. I like dinosaurs. Aunt Jessica likes dinosaurs." "Exactly." The clerk returned, holding something in her palm. "Found this little guy," she said. It was a tiny gold tie pin in the shape of a brontosaurus, perhaps from a child's collection long ago. "You can just have it. Consider it a lucky charm for the wedding." Zane gasped as if she'd offered him treasure. "Thank you." With the pin affixed to his lapel, the ensemble was really coming together. Even without the suspenders and glasses we had yet to find, he looked both sharp and adorably himself. The clerk rang us up, and as I paid, she leaned in and said quietly, "Good luck today. And tell your in-laws I said shame on them." She must have deduced more of the situation than we explicitly told her, perhaps from the fragments of conversation and my tense face. I gave a small nod of appreciation. "Thank you. I will." Our next stop was the mall. In the car, Zane was practically vibrating again. He kept touching the tie pin and looking at his reflection in the side mirror, clearly pleased. "Feeling good?" I asked. He nodded. "I look like a secret agent dinosaur person," he decided with a grin. I laughed. The best kind of secret agent. At the mall, we hit a children's accessory kiosk where we hit the jackpot. Novelty sunglasses shaped like dinosaur heads, complete with little teeth at the top of the frames, and neon green suspenders that, I kid you not, had tiny dinosaur footprints printed on them. It was like the universe had aligned to aid our mission. As Zane tried on the sunglasses, oversized, with reflective lenses and a goofy dinosaur detail at the corners, he giggled at himself in the mirror. Reagan's going to lose her mind, he said, echoing my phrasing from the night before but now with a hint of relish. I tugged the price tag off the glasses and placed them on the counter along with the suspenders. Let her, I said. She has no idea who she's up against. We grabbed a quick snack in the food court, and I checked my phone. A text from my cousin Grace, heading to venue soon. We'll keep an eye out for you. Don't worry about a thing. Another from Jessica, venue coordinator, knows to expect you early. Come straight in. All the pieces were moving in our favor, it seemed. I felt a mixture of gratitude and nervousness. We were actually doing this. Before leaving the mall, we stopped at a greeting card shop. Zane insisted we get Jessica the biggest wedding card in the world. He chose one that was enormous and gaudy and filled with loose glitter and confetti. As he carefully wrote inside it with a sparkly gel pen, "I love you, Aunt Jessica. Love, Zane." And then plastered half the card in dinosaur stickers. I half worried Reagan might literally combust at the sight of it. But that just made us laugh more. Maximum glitter mess achieved, I declared, closing the card carefully so as not to dump sparkles everywhere. That would come later, at the most inconvenient moment, no doubt. By the time we headed home to quickly change into our battle gear, Zane's spirits were soaring again. In the car, he even started rehearsing what he might shout if security tried to stop us. "Aunt Jessica, it's Miza, the one Reagan hates," he bellowed in a mock-deep voice, making us both crack up. At home, we dressed him up piece by piece. He stepped into his little suit pants and shirt, and I helped him with the suspenders over his shoulders. We tied the bright blue tie, which matched hilariously with the green suspenders. He stuck the dinosaur sunglasses atop his head for now, to keep his hair out of his face while we applied two very important finishing touches, temporary tattoos. Yes, in our party store run, we'd found a package of temporary dragon tattoos, close enough to dinosaurs, that Zane insisted would make him look extra cool. So now, in the bathroom, I carefully applied a roaring red dragon decal to the back of each of his hands. When we peeled the paper away and he saw them, he wiggled his fingers in delight. "Oh, Aunt Jessica will love these," he said, full of 8-year-old boy confidence. "And if she doesn't, Reagan certainly will," I teased. We practiced a couple of his dance moves in the living room once he was fully decked out. He did a slide, a spin, and an adjustment of his sunglasses with a flourish. I applauded. "Spectacularly annoying," I proclaimed, using our catchphrase. He bowed. Thank you. Then he became serious and came over to hold my hand. His hand was a little sweaty, nerves. "We're really going now?" "Promise, buddy. We're really going." He looked around as if expecting Reagan to jump out of a bush and tackle us before we could leave. Then he nodded resolutely. "Let's do it." The drive to the venue, a fancy banquet hall that Jessica had rented, took about 40 minutes. Zane was quiet for much of it, staring out the window with his sunglasses now firmly on and reflecting the passing clouds. I knew he was psyching himself up. Honestly, so was I. My stomach was doing flips by the time I pulled into the parking lot. Guests were already arriving in droves, filing toward the entrance where an usher was checking names off a list. I spotted a familiar face standing off to the side, my cousin Grace, who caught my eye and discreetly waved us over away from the main throng. She looked stunning in her bridesmaid dress, but her expression was all business as she scanned the area, presumably looking out for Reagan. "Coast is clear," she muttered to me, opening a side door that bypassed the main check-in. "Momzilla is inside fussing over flowers and already on her third mimosa from what I hear. Now's a good time." Zane squeezed my hand tightly as we slipped through the side door. Inside, the hall was bustling with arriving guests and waitstaff. It was beautiful. White draperies, blue and silver floral arrangements, Jessica's color scheme, naturally, and the soft strains of classical music playing. It smelled of roses and champagne. For a second, I was just relieved to be in. No confrontation at the door, no security stopping us. We had made it into the building. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath until that moment. Grace knelt briefly to Zane's level. "Wow, kiddo, you look awesome," she whispered, adjusting one of his suspenders which had twisted. Zane grinned. "Thank you." "Dinosaurs are very trendy," he informed her, parroting the store clerk from earlier. Grace bit back a laugh and stood. "All right, you too. I'm going to get into place for the ceremony. You find your seats, okay? Front row on the groom's side. That's where Jess wanted you." "Right, so we'd be separated from Reagan, who as mother of the bride would sit front row on the other side." "Good." I thanked Grace, and she gave my arm a supportive squeeze before hurrying off. We made our way through the crowd, drawing some looks and chuckles, likely at Zane's bold getup. But they were fond smiles, not cruel ones. I even heard a "oh my gosh, look how cute" from a lady we passed. Each little bit of positive feedback seemed to bolster Zane's posture more. Then I saw her. Reagan, across the room, near the bar. She hadn't spotted us yet. She was talking sharply to a waiter about something, her face already set in a displeased frown. My heart rate spiked. I instinctively placed a hand on Zane's shoulder, guiding him a bit behind me as we walked, just in case. We were about 15 feet from our seats when someone shrieked, "Done." I turned to see Jessica, the bride, barreling toward us, her voluminous white gown held up in both hands to free her legs for speed. She must have emerged from the bridal suite in the hallway just at the right moment. Zane lit up like a supernova. "Aunt Jessica," he yelled back, and before I could even step aside, he was running to her. Jessica met him halfway and scooped him into her arms without slowing down, fabric and tulle and laughter swirling around them. She lifted him, wedding dress and heels and all, into a tight hug. You're here, she cried, tears in her eyes. I heard the room hush in surprise at the unorthodox sight of the bride racing across the reception hall before the ceremony even began, but then soft murmurs of, as people realized she was embracing a little boy in suspenders who was clinging to her like a monkey. Reagan's head snapped toward the commotion. I saw her expression go from confusion to dawning horror as she locked eyes with me, then with the back of Zane's head as he hugged Jessica. Jessica put Zane down after covering his face in 2 big anti-kisses. She held him by the shoulders to admire his outfit. "Oh, my goodness. Look at you," she gushed loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Your suit. And these fantastic glasses. And is that a dragon on your hand?" She was playing it up, I could tell, part genuine delight, part performance for anyone Reagan cuff watching. Zane giggled, a bit bashful but mostly proud. "It's a dinosaur, Andy. See?" He showed off the tattoos and then the pin on his lapel. I wanted to look cool for you." Jessica actually got misty-eyed. "You look incredible. The coolest person here, hands down." She sniffed, then half-turned, as if remembering the audience. Indeed, Reagan had arrived, teetering towards us in her heels, a thunderous scowl on her face. Time for the showdown. Jessica saw her mother approaching and immediately straightened, positioning Zane slightly behind her skirt as if to guard him. I stepped up to Zane's side as well, feeling my muscles tense. "Mother," Jessica said, voice icy. "Did you seriously try to ban my nephew from my wedding?" Reagan looked flabbergasted, caught in her lie publicly. Her eyes flicked around at the spectators, because by now, several family members and guests were watching this exchange with keen interest. I was just thinking of what's best." "For who?" "For who?" Jessica shot back. I don't think I'd ever seen her so angry. "Because it certainly wasn't what was best for me, or Zane, or anyone but yourself." Reagan's mouth opened, but another voice cut in, one that made Reagan blanch. "Still pulling the same stunts, Reagan?" Grandma had stepped forward, leaning on her cane, her expression one of disappointment. She addressed her daughter Reagan, with a scolding tilt of her head. "Banning people from weddings. Shame on you." A ripple of recognition went through some of the older guests. Yes, it was true. Reagan had a history of controlling behavior. Apparently, she'd even tried to exclude her own mother from a family event last year. But now Grandma was here, invited by Jessica behind Reagan's back. Reagan's face flushed an ugly red. You shouldn't. I mean, this is my daughter's wedding, Mother, I decide. Jessica stepped closer to Reagan, leaving Zane next to me. "No, Mom. I decide. Robert and I decide together. And guess what? We decided we want Zane here. In fact, he has an important part to play." Reagan spluttered. "I was just worried." "You were worried about yourself?" I interjected sharply, unable to hold my tongue. My hands were trembling, but I kept my voice level. "You didn't want him here because you care more about appearances than your own family." A few gasps from eavesdroppers. Reagan's eyes flashed at me. "How dare you?" "No, how dare you?" Jessica interrupted, stepping between her mother and me. "How dare you treat my nephew like he's some embarrassment? If you can't accept and love him, then to hell with you today. Go sit down, Mom." "No." I almost wanted to pump my fist at that, but I stayed focused on Zane, who was holding my hand tightly, watching the confrontation with a mix of anxiety and awe at his aunt standing up for him. Reagan's chest was heaving, her carefully coiffed hair trembling from her agitation. She glanced around and realized how many eyes were on her. And for once, not sympathetically. People looked disgusted. Whatever she saw convinced her to drop the fight, at least for the moment. With a final glare at me and Zane, she spun on her heel and stalked off towards the main hall, where the ceremony was soon to begin. Grandma tooted and followed at a more dignified pace, but not before winking at Zane and whispering loud enough for others to hear. "You're perfect, sweetheart. Don't you let anyone tell you otherwise." Zane gave her a quick, shy smile. Jessica exhaled, releasing the tension in her shoulders. She turned back to us and crouched slightly, no easy feet in her gown, to cup Zane's face. "Are you okay, baby?" Zane nodded. I think so." She smoothed his hair. "You let me know if you're not, all right? And ignore all that nonsense. I am so happy you're here." He smiled, more confidently this time. "I'm happy I'm here too. I practiced my moonwalk for you." Her face lit up. "You did? I can't wait to see it. But first, the boring wedding part, okay?" Zane giggled. "Okay." We took our seats. front row on the groom's side as planned, which gave us a clear view of the aisle and also a decent view of Reagan across the way in her seat of honor. She studiously avoided looking at us. The ceremony was beautiful, despite the earlier drama. When Jessica appeared at the end of the aisle, arm in arm with her father, Zane gasped. "She looks like a princess," he whispered to me, eyes wide in wonder. I saw a few people around us notice him and smile adoringly. He managed to stay still and quiet through most of the vows, though he did fiddle with his sunglasses and strike a pose with them at one point, making the groomsmen at our side chuckle. When the rings were needed, Jessica gave a tiny nod our way. That was Zane's cue. He hopped up, and I gave him a gentle nudge. With all the solemnity of an astronaut on a mission, he carried the rings, which the best man had handed him, up to the altar. A collective ah swept the room as he delivered them to Jessica with a shy grin. She mouthed, "Thank you," and he scampered back to me. And when the officiant finally pronounced them husband and wife, and the hall erupted in applause, Zane, in a clear moment of childlike impatience, threw his arms up and exclaimed loudly, "Finally!" A ripple of laughter burst out from the crowd, including the bridal party. Even the officiant laughed. Jessica and Robert both turned toward Zane and blew him a playful kiss, which made him turn red but beam with pride. Reagan, across the aisle, looked mortified, but her reaction was drowned out by the general amusement of the guests. My son had, inadvertently, just broken any lingering tension with a perfectly timed innocent comment. I squeezed his hand and chuckled. That's my boy. As we transitioned into the reception hall for cocktails and dancing, I kept a close eye on Reagan. She was at the bar, downing something golden from a flute and shooting daggers our way every so often. But she didn't approach us. I think being publicly chastised by Jessica had, at least temporarily, knocked her off balance. Meanwhile, Zane was in seventh heaven. The band started up a lively tune, and before I could blink, my kid was on the dance floor, dinosaur glasses on and reflecting the colored lights, busting out his moonwalk in the middle of a cheering circle of cousins. He slid and spun, and yes, nailed it. A roar of applause greeted his performance, and he looked over to me with the biggest grin. I gave him 2 thumbs up. At our table, some of Reagan's own sisters, Jessica's aunts, leaned over to me and whispered, "He's adorable." So glad he could come. Reagan was being ridiculous. That felt good to hear, validation that it wasn't just us who thought so. Jessica and Robert soon joined the dance floor. After a slow first dance, the DJ switched to something funky. That's when Jessica, still in her gown, grabbed the mic briefly and announced, "I want to dance with my favorite person here. Zane, get on out here." Zane froze in happy shock, then scampered out. The crowd hooted and clapped as the bride twirled with her little nephew. He giggled wildly when she did an exaggerated version of his moonwalk. The photographers circled them, snapping away. The sheer joy of that moment was palpable. I watched with tears in my eyes as my boy experienced what pure acceptance and love felt like in a big social setting, maybe for the first time ever. He wasn't the odd one out. He was the star. But such moments, it seems, are often what tip those teetering on the edge. I saw the change in Reagan even from afar, the tightening of her jaw, the way she slammed her empty champagne flute onto the bar. She was unraveling. When Jessica placed an affectionate kiss on Zane's cheek at the end of their dance, I saw Reagan stand up abruptly. My gut clenched. Reagan marched toward the DJ booth, where the DJ was already cueing the next song. She gestured at him frantically. At first he looked confused, but then, likely recognizing the mother of the bride and not wanting to cause a scene, he lowered the volume and handed her the microphone. Oh no. I started moving toward the dance floor where Zane now was chatting happily with one of Robert's young nieces. But I was too late to intercept. Reagan's voice boomed through the speakers. This child was not invited and needs to be removed. It was like a record scratch in a movie. Music cut out entirely now, and a hush fell. The laughter and dancing screeched to a standstill. Everyone's eyes snapped to Reagan at the DJ booth. Her face was flushed, her expression livid. I saw Zane on the dance floor, standing near Jessica still. He flinched as his grandmother's amplified voice hit him. His hands flew to cover his ears, the sensory overload of the microphone's screech and her yelling visibly startling him. I was already sprinting around tables to get to him. He's a problem. Reagan continued, her voice shrill. This is my daughter's special day, and I won't have it ruined by something. Robert was out of his seat in an instant, and Jessica was right beside him. They both reached Reagan at the same time as she was grappling for the right insult. "Mother, stop!" Jessica shouted, trying to grab the microphone. Reagan twisted away, holding it above her head like a prize out of reach. Her voice turned sneering and hateful as she spat out the word into the mic. "Creature." Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room. Several people stood up, uncertain whether to intervene or watch. I finally reached Zane, who was now trembling violently in the middle of the dance floor, eyes fixed on his grandmother's spectacle with a look of terror and humiliation. He'd pushed his glasses up to wipe at his eyes, and I could see tears on his lashes. Grandma got to him just a second before I did, wrapping her arms around him protectively. "You're perfect, sweetheart," she told him loudly, making sure others heard. "Don't listen to her." I fell to my knees and joined the hug, one arm around Zane, the other rubbing his back as he started to sob into Grandma's shoulder. His little voice was a shattered whisper audible only to us. "I'm ruining everything. I ruined it. No, buddy," I crooned, heartbroken. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing. She's the one ruining things, not you." Up at the DJ booth, chaos continued. Jessica was wrestling the mic from Reagan. Robert stepped between them, facing Reagan with barely controlled fury. Even the normally composed groom looked ready to explode. "Reagan, give me the microphone," he said, voice low and shaking. "You're choosing that creature over your own mother?" Reagan screeched, refusing to let go of the mic. Security personnel were hovering now, unsure whether to intervene in a family altercation. That's when David, Reagan's husband, stood up near the front. His face was ashen but resolved. He made his way up to the DJ area and, in a surprisingly calm move, simply plucked the power cable of the microphone out of the speaker system. The mic died with a pop, silencing Reagan's tirade mid-word. In the stunned quiet that followed, David spoke, not loudly, but clearly enough that it reached across the room. "I think you've said enough, Reagan. We're leaving." Reagan gaped at him, then at everyone, as if realizing for the first time that nearly the entire room was glaring at her in disgust. She tried to bluster, tried to start another sentence, but David had already taken her arm firmly and was steering her toward the exit. You'll all regret this," she yelled, voice cracking as she tried to project without the mic. "Jessica, you're out of the will." It was an almost laughably pathetic threat at this point. Jessica, standing with her arm protectively around Zane and me now, we had moved toward the front in the aftermath, actually laughed. "Good," she shouted back. "Stuff your will. I care about family, not money." Reagan let out a frustrated scream, threw her hands in the air, and disappeared through the doors with David guiding her. I wasn't sure what their future would be, though I had a feeling divorce papers might be in her near future, but in that moment, I didn't care. She was gone. The silence held for just a beat longer. Then Grandma, never one to miss a moment, raised her champagne glass high. "To Zane, the best dancer at this wedding," she declared. Laughter and applause broke out, tentative at first, then growing. "To Zane," dozens of voices echoed. All around, glasses were lifted. Zane, overwhelmed by the abrupt shift from horror to praise, turned and buried his face in my shirt. I held him, feeling him shaking. Whether from lingering fear or just emotion, I couldn't tell. Probably both. "It's okay, my love," I whispered, kissing the top of his head. "Listen to that. They're cheering for you." He peeked out and sure enough, people were smiling at him, nodding in encouragement. Jessica gently stroked his back, her own eyes wet but joyful. "They don't hate me?" he asked in a tiny tentative voice that just broke my heart. "No, baby, not at all," Jessica said, voice thick. "Quite the opposite. We all love you so much. You are family and you belong here." He sniffled, taking that in. Then he looked up at me, tears still clinging to his lashes but a dawning wonder in his expression. "Dad, everyone likes me." I couldn't hold back my own tears anymore. I cupped his cheek. "They sure do, buddy. They love you. Because you're you." He nodded slowly, wiping his face. A weight visibly lifted off his small shoulders as he realized that one person's cruelty did not represent everyone's feelings. The DJ, bless his heart, jumped in to rescue the mood. "Well," he announced, "how about we get this party back on track? The bride has requested a special song, the Zay Train." Everyone on the dance floor. Immediately, an upbeat, silly conga line song started playing. Jessica grabbed Zane's hand. "Come on, nephew. Lead the way." He hesitated. So much had just happened. But when he saw his aunt's radiant smile and outstretched hand, he found his bravery again. He pushed his glasses back on, a bit crooked now, and stepped forward. A cheer went up as Zane and Jessica formed the head of the conga line. One by one, every willing guest fell in behind, hands on the hips of the person in front. Zane began doing his own twist on the conga, throwing in a moonwalk step here, a spin there. Laughter rippled down the line as people tried, mostly in vain, to mimic his moves. I stayed back momentarily, just watching with amazement. There was my son, leading about 50 adults and kids around a ballroom, his dinosaur glasses glinting under the disco lights, his smile so big it crinkled his face. The same child who just a day ago thought he was unwanted and wrong was now the heart of the celebration. Robert's mother came over and touched my arm gently. "You have one heck of a boy there," she said kindly. "I'm so sorry for what Reagan did, but I'm so happy you brought him." "Thank you," I managed, voice a bit rough from emotion. I am too." The night wound down with no further drama. A while after the conga line, David actually returned, solo. He looked drained but at peace. He quietly told me that he'd be filing for divorce on Monday. 20 years too late maybe, he sighed. I expressed sympathy, but he waved it off. Don't be. Your boy did us all a favor tonight. Sometimes it takes a child's pure heart to point out all the ugliness we adults ignore. I've ignored it in Reagan for far too long. We clinked glasses to that, me with a soda, him with a stiff whiskey. Finally, as the evening ended, Zane was completely tuckered out. He fell asleep in a chair around 11. Dinosaur glasses still on, he refused to take them off, even while dozing. I scooped him up and he murmured a little, then nuzzled into my shoulder. Jessica and Robert came by our table to say goodbye. Jessica hugged us both as best she could without waking Zane. Thank you, she whispered to me, tears in her eyes. For fighting for him, for bringing him. You gave me the best gift tonight. I shook my head smiling. We wouldn't have missed it. Robert gave me a one-armed man-hug, his other arm holding a stack of presents. You two better be at every family event from now on, you hear? No more drama keeping you away. We'll make sure of that. Deal, I said softly, feeling that unknown wound in me, one I hadn't realized was so deep, begin to heal. We were truly welcome in this family. Reagan no longer held the gatekeeper keys. As they left, Jessica blew one more kiss to Zane's sleeping form and mouthed, "Love you." In the car, as I carefully buckled Zane into his booster without fully waking him, his eyes fluttered open for just a second. Dad, did I do good? He mumbled drowsily. I brushed a bit of glitter from that outrageous card, which had indeed exploded sparklies at some point during cake cutting, out of his hair. My throat tightened. You did perfect, my sweet boy. Absolutely perfect. He gave a tiny smile, already fading back to sleep. "'Kay," he breathed. Then he was out like a light, dinosaur glasses askew on his nose. That night, after carrying Zane to bed and tucking him in, he barely stirred. I sat on the couch and scrolled through the barrage of texts and photos on my phone. So many relatives and friends had sent me pictures of Zane dancing, videos of Jessica twirling him, messages like, "Your son is amazing," and "Never seen Reagan put in her place like that, good riddance." One message was from David. "She's in Florida. I'm at my sister's. Thank you for everything. Tell Zane his courage saved us." I read that one twice, letting the magnitude of it sink in. Another was from Jessica, a professional photo of the whole family at the altar, Zane front and center with his goofy glasses and joyous grin. Her caption, framing this. "Best wedding ever, despite the drama. Love you both." I sighed contentedly and put my phone down. What a journey these past 24 hours had been. The next morning, I woke to find Zane already up, sitting at the kitchen table with his cereal, wearing, of course, his green dinosaur sunglasses at 7 a.m. and humming to himself. The first thing he asked me was, "Can we go to more weddings?" That was fun. I nearly spit out my coffee in laughter. "Maybe not right away, champ. But eventually, sure." He nodded thoughtfully, then added, "But only weddings where they want me there, right? Not where I'm a creature." My smile faded into a serious look. I went over and crouched next to his chair. "Listen to me, Zane. You're never a creature. You're never anything bad or wrong. And I will only ever take you places where you're wanted and loved, okay?" He studied me for a moment, then slowly took off his glasses, one of the rare times he did so voluntarily, probably to see my eyes better. "Reagan thought I was bad," he said quietly. "Reagan was wrong," I emphasized. "Very, very wrong. About so many things." "Don't carry those words," she said, "baby. They're not true. They never were." He nodded. "I think I understand that now." And I think he truly did. There was a peace in his expression I hadn't seen before. Later that morning, Jessica dropped off a small gift bag and a note at our doorstep. They were leaving for a short honeymoon. Inside the bag were an extra pair of dinosaur sunglasses, blue frames this time, and a handwritten note, "For my brave ring bearer. I love you to the moon, Zany. Aunt Jessica." He wore those blue glasses the rest of the day with pride. In the weeks that followed, so much changed for the better. True to his word, David filed for divorce from Reagan and reconnected with family she'd made him cut off long ago. Jessica and Robert settled into married life, and not long after, she announced she was expecting a baby boy who, she proudly told Zane over a video call, they plan to name Zane after the bravest kid they know. My son's face when he heard that was something I'll cherish forever. He danced around the living room chanting, "I'm gonna have a baby named after me." Perhaps the most important change, however, was within Zane. At his next therapy session, he told his therapist all about the wedding, how he danced and everyone clapped, how Aunt Jessica defended him. "Maybe being different isn't bad," he told her. "Maybe I'm just me and that's okay." His therapist shot me a glance of happy astonishment. I had tears in my eyes hearing him say it. He even ended up sharing the story with his classmates for a school project about an important life event. His teacher later emailed me saying how inspiring it was for the other kids to learn that one mean person doesn't speak for everyone. Apparently, 3 kids asked to wear his dinosaur glasses at recess afterward, like he was some kind of trendsetter hero. As for Reagan, Well, aside from a single half-hearted attempt to reach out, a letter suggesting that if we apologized for disrupting the wedding, maybe she'd consider allowing Zayn at family events under her supervision. Yeah, no thanks. She removed herself from our lives. And honestly, it was a relief. The cloud had passed. That Christmas, our family gathered at Jessica and Robert's new house. It was everything a holiday should be: warm, loud, joyful, with not a trace of the tension that used to accompany Reagan's presence. David was there, looking happier and freer than I'd ever seen him. Grandma was telling stories by the fire. And Zayn? Zayn was zooming around with his younger cousins, teaching them how to do the moonwalk. I stood in a corner watching him demonstrate the moves, his ever-present dinosaur glasses perched on his nose, and I thought, he's okay. We're okay. That night, as I tucked Zayn into bed, he stopped me with a thoughtful question. Dad, do you think Reagan is sad now? I paused. Maybe. She lost a lot because of what she did. He fiddled with the edge of his blanket. I'm not happy she's sad, he said carefully. But I am happy she can't make us sad anymore. I smiled, feeling such pride. That's a very kind way to put it, buddy. Me too. He reached over to his nightstand and, one by one, straightened out 3 pairs of dinosaur sunglasses he'd placed there, green, blue, and a new orange pair Grandma got him for Christmas. His trophies. His armor. His identity. Once a point of pain, now a point of pride. Dad, he said softly. Yes. Thank you for not listening to Reagan. And for helping me not listen to her, too. My throat constricted. I leaned down and hugged him. Always, Zayn. Always. You never have to worry about that. He hugged back, then let out a small yawn. You know, next time someone calls me a creature, he trailed off, eyes drifting closed. I brushed a curl off his forehead. Yes. His lips curved into a sleepy, mischievous smile. I'll just say, no, I'm a dinosaur, and then do my moonwalk. He made a faint little swish motion with his foot under the covers. I had to stifle a laugh to not fully wake him. That sounds like a perfect plan. He gave a content nod, snuggling into his pillow. Within moments, he was asleep, breathing softly, face peaceful. I stayed by his bedside a minute longer, watching him. Images from the past few months flickered through my mind. That horrible text, his tears, then his courage and triumph at the wedding, his proud little face as everyone cheered for him, and now this, my child, secure in the knowledge that he is loved and enough exactly as he is. Reagan had tried to break that spirit in him, but she failed spectacularly. In fact, by pushing us to the edge, she inadvertently gave Zayn the chance to see just how many people would rally around him with love. She revealed the truth, that her cruel opinion was not the world's opinion, and certainly not ours. Zayn was not, and never had been, a freak or a creature or any of those vile words. He was a bright, funny, dinosaur-loving kid who danced like nobody's business and brought joy to those who took the time to know him. He was Zayn, and that was more than enough. It was everything.